Welcome to Tri-Valley Sports Final, your program for the best in local sports action. On this week's show, S.J. Martin leads the way as the Granada girls wrestling team takes on the EBAL's best. The EBAL boys individual and team wrestling championships are up for grabs as Granada, Amador, and the rest of the league square off. And Tristan Cox is outstanding as the Dublin Gales face Amador in boys volleyball. All that and much more right here on Tri-Valley Sports Final. Welcome back to Tri-Valley Sports Final. I'm Ian Bartholomew. On this week's show, we'll have highlights from the EBAL Boys and Girls Wrestling Championships. We'll see many of the top wrestlers from Granada, Amador, Livermore, Dublin, and Foothill. And later in the show, we'll have boys volleyball as two EBAL powers square off. Dublin taking on Amador, but we start off tonight with boys wrestling. And to bring us that is my co-host, Tim Sabrani.
Great, thank you, Ian. And you knew it was going to be the best of the best in EBAL wrestling as they gathered in Livermore for the league championships. Their top local athletes gathered to decide both individual and team honors. And we'll pick it up in the 108-pound division. Ilham Hashimi of Livermore going up against Dom Novosel of De La Salle. Hashimi on top and in control for much of this match, and he'll go on to win by a score of 11-0. So then we'll go up to the 115-pound division next as Luke Staley of Amador Valley taking on Cameron Shirazi of De La Salle. Staley trying to get on top, and Staley tries to get on top. Shirazi unable to escape. Then Shirazi would get on top. Back and forth this match, reversals. Shirazi up 3-0 at this point and would end up remaining in control, going on to win by a score of 6-0. Next, we'll go to the 122-pound division as Lightning Hazen of Dublin, Grant Lagstaff of Granada, and here you see Naylor in control, but Hazen would end up scoring on a takedown in the second period. He would be up 3-1. This would be close throughout, as very evenly matched, but Hazen would end up going on to win by a score of 4-3. Now that brings us to the 128-pound division. Isaiah Peterson Moore of Granada, Roman Moore, Amador Valley, and both wrestlers trying to gain an advantage. Peterson Moore in control, and he would end up going on to an 11-4 win. This one was tied 4-4 at one point, but then Peterson Moore would get some momentum late for the win. 134 pounds now. Jack Baker, Granada. Youssef Amin of Dublin. Baker throws Amin to the mat. He's up 3-0 at that point. And then Baker would again look to get Amin on the mat. There you see it. Baker would end up getting the win by a score of 7-1. 140 pounds now. Jack Bronte, Granada. Nathan Mark, Amador Valley. A lot of good action in this one, but there would be no points after the first period. We'll see some nice escapes right off to the edge of the mat. Bronte here would end up getting the takedown and ultimately would end up prevailing in this one by a score of 9-1. There you see the raising of the hand. So some good early action and very evenly matched some of these games, some of these contests, but we'll have more EBAL boys wrestling later in the show, but able to see some of the North Coast sections best in these highlights. Yeah,
Bronte, Baker, outstanding, as they usually are. Baker would go on to win NCS. He's a senior. Bronte, only a junior, also won NCS, but Hashimi comes in as a freshman and wins the EBAL and then wins NCS as well.
Yeah, very impressive. And Lightning Hazen we've seen as well. You know, that Hazen wrestling family dynasty.
Right,
and there's another one right there.
And as Tim said, we'll have more boys wrestling a little later in the show. Up next, though, we'll feature the girls as they battle for individual and team awards. Plus, a little later, we see the Dublin boys volleyball team square off against Amador. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Tri-Valley Sports Final. The EBAL Girls Wrestling Championships were on the line recently in Livermore. There, some of the top talent, not only in the Tri-Valley, but also in the state, competed for first place honors. Among those taking part were 3 former state medalists, S.J. Martin and Miley Nguyen from Granada, and Lana Nguyen from Dublin. And we go out to Livermore High School. Start off with the 102-pounders. Eliana Caro of Amador taking on Callie Cotreau of Cal. Caro starts off with a takedown early going to grab a 3-0 lead. She would lead 4-2 after the first period. Second period now, Caro looks to build on her advantage as she maintains control. Moving now to the third, Caro tries for a takedown. She would stretch her lead to 8-2 midway through the third. Now Caro seals it in the final 30 seconds with her third takedown of the match. The referee raises her hand. Caro wins the 102-pound championship, 11-3. On to 112. Sydney Sue of Foothill going against Doherty Valley's Emily Young. Young gets a pin late in the first period to win the title as the referee raises her hand. On to 117's Olivia Warren of Granada facing Charlotte McCacker of Doherty Valley. McCacker wins with a pin late in the first period. Good effort, though, by Warren. Now on to the 125s, one of the top wrestlers in the country, defending EBAL, NCS, and championship. Also a state medalist, S.J. Martin of Granada. Quickly scoring an advantage here, getting a takedown of Johanna Mendoza of Doherty. Martin gets her opponent on the back, and she gets the pin. She pinned all 3 of her opponents. She'll be wrestling next season at Lehigh University. Next, we go to the 127-pounders. Another state medalist from last year, Miley Nguyen of Granada, grabs an early lead with a takedown. She would dominate this match here, getting an escape. Later, Nguyen shows her strength with another takedown. She also scores a near fall, which she would turn into a pin. Nguyen will wrestle next season at North Central University in Illinois. There she is. Referee raises her hand with the victory. On to the 132-pounders. Granada's Piper Anderson taking on former state medalist Lana Nguyen of Dublin. Anderson comes out aggressive, scoring a quick takedown. She looks for the pin, and she gets it 30 seconds into the match. Huge win for Anderson. She's excited, and she celebrates with her coaches. Another exciting match would be the 137-pound final. Sierra Monahan of Granada taking on Yashika Berman. Monahan takes an early 4-3 lead. Berman, though, battles back. Here she scores a takedown. She would lead 15-4 in the second period. But Monahan is not finished. She would get within 1 point of taking the lead in the third. Berman, though, holds on to win the match. She edges Monahan 19-18. Next, we go to the 147-pounders. Elena Nguyen Schertzer of Granada in control. Zoe Park of Monte Vista tries to escape, but is unable to. Nguyen Schertzer picks up a first period pin right there, and she is the champion. Finally, we go to the 172-pounders. Isabella Tovar of Granada in control. She scores a pin 30 seconds into the match. Tovar then receives congratulations from the coaching staff. Granada would dominate the competition, winning 5 individual championships and the girls' team title. So congratulations to them and their coaches. And a great day for the Granada girls.
Yeah, just virtually every single one of those highlights, almost every weight class. You had a Granada wrestler competing for the title and winning.
Mm-hmm.
So a great day for them. Doherty Valley also, a lot of those
very
matches. Piper Anderson, Amador Valley, huge upset over Nguyen of Dublin, who's been a great wrestler, so congrats to her. From the girls, we're going to go back to the boys, starting with the 146-pound division. And here we pick up the action. Sam Ekman, Monte Vista. Daniel Borsati, Amador Valley. Ekman would be up 6-1 after a takedown in the first period. Here we see, again, another takedown. Up 9-1 at this point. Roddy turns it around, ready to get the pin. Gets it all the way back to 9-9 after 2. Almost again getting the pin, but Ekman would regain control in the third period, scoring on a takedown, and just did a nice job finishing this one, and ultimately would go on to win by a score of 12-9. Excellent even match for those two. 152 pounds next, Charlie Harrington, Granada. Trevor Economos, Monte Vista. Harrington tries for the escape. He would be trailing 3-1, but then he does the reversal, and then he scores near the fall. See the reversal coming. Ultimately end up celebrating by a score of 9-1, getting the victory. So now 159 pounds, Evan Johnson, Amador Valley, Tanoa Badali of Foothill. The two Pleasanton wrestlers. Johnson was on top early. He would be up 3-0 after a takedown. Badali would end up trying to rally. He would end up getting a 5-3 lead in the second period that you see there. Nice job. But Johnson, look at this, he gets him down. Another even match, 7-6. As he head into the third period, ultimately Johnson going on to win by a score of 16-8. 167 pounds, Nathaniel Hidalgo, San Ramon Valley, Nick Green of Dublin. And it would be Hidalgo with the takedown and the pin in the first period, coming away with the title. 192 pounds, Roman McAllister of Livermore, lifting William Chandler, Amador Valley. McAllister end up doing a nice job in control. Gets behind Chandler here. Would end up scoring later on the takedown, up 3-1 on top of McAllister. And here we see at this point McAllister down, trying to get away. He just can't. And ultimately Chandler would come away with the win, 4-3. Then we go up to the 217-pound division. It would be Jack Schweibenland of Granada, Ishan Zagol, Monte Vista. Hard, fast pin for Schwaben of Granada. We'll finish at 287 pounds. Wyatt Ferguson coming away with the win, but Granada would come away with the title. And congrats to the Matadors. First time that the Matadors have won both the boys and the girls EBL team wrestling titles in the same season. So a lot of great performances throughout.
Yeah, and some really even matches. The Johnson-Bodley match, really close. And then, of course, McAllister and Chandler went right down to the wire, with Chandler coming back in the late moments to win that match. And you know, then we have the pin with the Granada wrestler at 217.
We see some pins, some early pins. It's going to happen. But I would say this year more than most, really competitive. The matches went the distance, and they were close scores and back and forth, and you know, it was really exciting.
And that's going to do it for wrestling. Up next, we'll have EBAL boys volleyball as the Red Hot Dublin Gales face Amador. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Tri-Valley Sports Final. It's been quite a start for the Dublin boys volleyball team. Gales are looking to build on last year's 19-win season, in which they advanced to the quarterfinals of the NCS Division I playoffs. Recently, Dublin looked to improve to 8-1 on the year as they traveled to Pleasanton to face the Amador Valley Dons. And we go out to Amador. Dons down one set, trying to rally. Levi Fisher bumps to Danny Park, who sets to Ryan Burry, number 1 with a kill. Dublin responds. Brody DeQuisto with the great dig to Ariane Beretti, over to Rashab Gounier. Now, Tristan Cox serves, and he drops it over for a point. Gales win set 2, 25-19. We move on to set 3. Dublin looking to close things out. Beretti serves. Dons try to set up the kill, but Rashab Gunay is there for the block. He had 3 in the match. Now Beretti serves again, this time Ricky Santamaria skies for the rejection. He also had 3 blocks in the match. Dublin's front line continues to play well. Here Santamaria blocks, then he comes back and spikes a winner. Gales now attack the left side, then come back and record the kill on the right. Santamaria with the smash. Amador tries to rally Levi Fisher to Danny Park, to Reese Zhao. Moments later, Park serves. Dublin tries to set up the kill, but Jack Bear is there for the block. More Dons. Fisher to Park, to Ryan Burry. He gets it to drop. Now Nathan Hong serves, and it's off his opponent's hand for a point. The comeback continues as Fisher passes to Park, who sets to Burry. Dublin answers though. Tristan Cox to Beretti, back to Cox for the rip. He finished the night with 12 kills. More Amador. Nathan Hong to Danny Park, to number 11, Levi Fisher, who pushes it over. The Gales would have just too many weapons on this night, though. Brody DeQuisto saves to Beretti, over to Dhruv Vijay Kumar for the smash. He finished with 5 kills. And one more time, Beretti to DeQuisto to Vijay Kumar. Dublin goes on to defeat Amador Valley in 3 sets. David Din and Kristen Cox combined for 25 kills as the Gales win. Dublin has since won 2 more matches, so they currently stand with a record of 10-1. They've only dropped 3 sets all season, and they have a couple of big tests coming up this week as they face the much improved Livermore Cowboys, already with 16 wins, and De La Salle.
Big test. The league is loaded, but Dublin's loaded.
Yeah,
and you
they're very good.
You know, all the different weapons. Coach Mike Bungay back in control of that program, and it's a rewarding win for them on the same floor that their season ended last year against Amador Valley.
Yeah, well, Amador's kind of been their nemesis the past couple of years in the playoffs.
They have in the NCS, so that's a good win for the Gales. We'll see what happens as the season progresses. And we're going to be back with more, including our Tri-Valley Sports Final Athlete of the Week, right after these messages, so please stay with us.
Our Tri-Valley Sports Final Athletes of the Week are Granada wrestler S.J. Martin and Granada wrestler Miley Nguyen. Martin recently capped off her high school career with a victory in the 122-pound division at the EBAL Championships. She then went on to win both the North Coast Section title and the state championship in her weight bracket, becoming the first Granada wrestler to win a state title. Nguyen, meanwhile, won both the EBAL and NCS championships at 127 pounds. She then joined Martin as 2-time state medalist, placing 6th at the state championships in Bakersfield. For their excellence on the mat, Granada's S.J. Martin and Miley Nguyen are Tri-Valley Sports Final Athletes of the Week. Congratulations to both of them. In our next show, we'll see both S.J. and Miley again as they compete at the NCS championships. And we'll also see the Valley's top boys wrestlers in action, and always a lot of excitement at NCS.
Yeah, a lot of excitement as we wind down. This is the last of the winter sports coverage.
Yep.
And we start to wind into the spring coverage. We saw boys volleyball today. We'll have spring action as well and other sports in future shows. So fun time of year.
We're going to have a little bit more volleyball action. Foothill taking on Livermore, Foothill taking on Granada. And we're also going to try to get in a little bit more action as well. That's lots of sports going on.
It is indeed.
That's going to do it for this edition of Tri-Valley Sports Final. Tim Sobrani, me and Bartholomew, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.